Hi, I'm Dylan, and welcome back to Chapter 12 of the Barron's AP Economics book. In this video, I'll be covering what you need to know for the AP exam. This includes knowing what a monopolistic competition is, what the cost curves for it looks like, and the long-run conditions for monopolistic competition. You also need to know what an oligopoly is, and what game theory and the Nash equilibrium is. So what is monopolistic competition? In monopolistic competition, there are a large number of firms who compete with each other. However, unlike perfect competition, they do not sell identical products, and therefore they must innovate to stay in business. Not only do they engage in price competition, they also compete in non-price methods such as advertising. This market has weak barriers of entry due to the large number of smallish firms. Monopolistic competition is also not as efficient as perfect competition due to the fact that demand is downslipping from non-homogeneous products. Firms in monopolistic competition earn normal profits in the long run, with the potential to earn economic profits or losses in the short run. Monopolistic competition is neither productively nor allocatively efficient. Even though monopolistic competitive firms earn normal profits, price is only equal to ATC, and it's not equal to the minimum ATC. This is because they produce too little output to fully maximize their fixed costs. Therefore, they haven't quite utilized economies of scale. Monopolistic competition is also not allocatively efficient. They sell at a price higher than marginal costs. Therefore, society desires more of the good than firms are willing to produce. So the graph of a monopolistic competition firm looks quite similar to that of a regular monopoly. So you start off with the y-axis and the x-axis, and price is always on the y-axis and quantity is always on the x-axis. So this time I'm going to draw the demand curve first. So the demand curve is also downsloping, but however, unlike a monopoly, it's not quite as steep. It's actually a pretty shallow demand curve, and the marginal revenue curve is right below it. And this time, when we draw the ATC, instead of drawing the demand curve above the average total cost, we need to draw the average total cost just so that it lies tangent to the demand curve, so that they produce right here. And then of course the marginal cost is going to intersect right here. So that marginal revenue and marginal cost should be just right below where it produces, so right here. And of course this is going to be the equilibrium price, and this is going to be the equilibrium quantity. So this is what your long run monopolistic competition graph looks like. Normal profit, because demand is equal to average total cost, produced at MR equals MC, just like in any other graph. Yeah, so that's about it. Sometimes there may be a profit or loss in the short run. If there's a profit, the demand curve will lie above the average total cost, right where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. If there is a loss, demand curve will be below average total cost, where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. However, this only occurs in the short run. In the long run, the demand curve will always be equal to the average total cost, where MR equals MC. This is because if there's a short run profit, more firms will enter the industry in the long run, and this will decrease the individual firm's demand, and this will restore normal profits. The opposite will happen if the firm is currently losing money. Firms will leave the industry, which will increase the demand for that individual firm's products. Demand will increase, and then demand will now equal average total cost, right where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So the next type of market structure we need to know is called an oligopoly. Oligopolies are a unique type of market structure. This market is dominated by a few large firms who are interdependent on each other. Sometimes they collude to snag larger profits, or other times they're extremely competitive and they try to take each other out. Firms will use a variety of strategies to compete with each other in an oligopoly, and these are all based on the decisions and strategies of other firms. Some of these strategies include price leaderships. Sometimes in an oligopoly there's one dominant firm, and they will set a price, any price they want, and this will force other firms to match the price, because if they don't match the price, they'll lose market share. Or, in an oligopoly, some firms may collude. When oligopolist firms, they collude to set prices for goods to increase profits. They might say, let's sell an apple for $100, and these people will combine to do that, and they can make a lot more money that way. Or sometimes they might engage in price wars when they lower the prices of goods. Sometimes they even lose money on these goods on purpose, and they try to force each other's businesses out of business. So the strategies of an oligopolist firm can be modeled on a game theory model. This model here shows Apple and Samsung's options to lower prices or keep them the same. So as you first notice, if they both keep prices the same, they'll both make a ton of money. They'll both make 160 profit. But if they both lower it, they only end up with 120. So you might ask, why don't they just collude? If Apple makes a lot of money, Samsung makes a lot of money. They're both happy. However, this turns the idea of colluding into a much more complicated process, because each firm can make more money by lowering prices when the other one keeps the same. So let's say Samsung keeps the price at 160. If Apple lowers the price, Apple will make 200 and Samsung will only make 100. So this just made it a lot more complicated. They can't just collude, because if one of the person keeps it the same, the other person can just lower prices. So each firm has what's called a dominant strategy, the strategy they will always do. Let's take things from Apple's point of view. If Samsung lowers prices, Apple needs to lower prices in order to maximize profit, because if Apple tries to keep things the same, they'll only make 100 and Samsung will make 200. So Apple has to lower prices if Samsung lowers prices. Then let's say Samsung keeps prices at 100, then Apple will obviously do 200. They'll lower prices to get 200, because if they both collude, Apple only makes 160. But if Apple lowers prices when Samsung keeps them, Apple's at 200. So Apple, no matter what Samsung does, Apple will always lower prices. In this case, Apple's dominant strategy is to lower prices, because no matter what Samsung does, Apple is always better off by lowering prices. Now as I said before, both firms have a dominant strategy. In this case, Samsung actually has the exact same strategy. From Samsung's point of view, if Apple lowers prices, Samsung is better off lowering prices as well, because they'll make 120. If Samsung tries to keep prices when Apple lowers them, they'll only make 100. So Samsung has to lower prices. Now let's say Apple keeps prices. Well, Samsung's better off by lowering prices, because then they'll make 200 instead of just 160. So no matter what Apple does, Samsung is better off lowering prices. So the dominant strategy for Samsung is to lower prices, regardless of what each other does. This creates what's called a Nash equilibrium when both players have a dominant strategy. The Nash equilibrium in this scenario is lowering prices, because no matter which the other firm does, they will lower prices, and this creates an equilibrium where both firms will lower prices, and they'll only make 120 and 120 profit. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something from this video.